A pharmaceutical batch may look perfect from the outside, with tablets compressed, bottles filled, labels applied, and cartons stacked on pallets. But before release, QA must confirm that the batch record proves the product was manufactured, tested, packed, inspected, and stored correctly. Batch record review determines whether a batch can be released or quarantined, reworked or rejected. In a GMP facility, the batch record tells the full story of the batch. It shows which materials were used, which equipment was prepared, which operators were involved, which in-process checks were completed, among other things. It also records if there were deviations during processing and what corrective actions were taken to support the quality decisions. A well-reviewed batch record allows QA to reconstruct what happened and decide whether the batch release is justified. Batch record review is a shared responsibility across production, QC, QA, and warehouse. Production completes the record accurately and performs the first-level review before sending it to QA. QC provides test results, certificates of analysis, and laboratory records needed for release. QA performs the independent final review and makes the batch disposition decision. Warehouse controls ERP status, release labels, pallets, and shipment after QA approval. Let's explore a few examples of batch record review. During the batch review, the QA officer found that the tablet compression batch record was missing a signature. The result was within specification, and production says the operator simply forgot to sign. GMP guidelines do not allow a signature to be added without explanation. So, what can be done in this case? QA should document the discrepancy and assess whether the missing signature affects data reliability. The officer should investigate whether there is reliable evidence that the check was performed correctly at the time. Supporting evidence may include equipment printouts, supervisor logs, time records, or electronic audit trails. If the signature is added later, the correction should be signed, dated, and linked to supporting evidence. The key lesson is that missing data should never be silently repaired. Take another example of batch yield and reconciliation. A packaging record shows that cartons issued, packed, rejected, sampled, and returned do not reconcile within approved limits. Production may see the difference as minor, but QA notices it involves printed packaging material. Printed components are high risk because mix-ups can lead to incorrect labels, expiry dates, or strengths, or to recalls. What measures can be taken to resolve the yield discrepancy? The decision to batch release should be stopped until reconciliation is complete. QA should check reject bins, returned materials, samples, packaging logs, line clearance records, and warehouse movements. If the discrepancy remains unexplained, a deviation should be raised and investigated. The batch should not be released until the risks of mix-up, mislabeling, and the risk of uncontrolled printed material are resolved. Another important aspect is the review of the manufacturing deviation investigation. Imagine, during granulation, a process parameter briefly goes outside the approved range. The operator records the event, production completes the batch, and the laboratory tests pass the specification. Should you release the batch? A passing test result does not automatically justify batch release. QA must understand what happened, why it happened, and whether product quality may have been affected. QA must review all deviation investigations before making any release decision. The review should consider all records: what occurred, which processing steps were affected, the duration, and what immediate corrective actions were taken. QA should also review the investigation steps, the root cause, the possible impact on quality, and whether other related batches have been affected. The effectiveness of the corrective and preventive measures should be checked. The decision to release the batch should be made if the deviation does not affect quality. Sometimes the market urgently needs a product while the batch is still being packed. The site may consider partially releasing the portion already fully packed. This is called partial release, and it carries additional risk because the batch is still in process. QA must confirm that the released portion is fully packed, tested, controlled, and traceable. The release labels must clearly identify the approved quantity. Labels should be applied only to approved pallets or stock units. What steps should you follow during the batch review? Step 1. Complete production records in real time. Operators must record actual values when activities occur and sign, date, and document abnormal events, corrections, interruptions, or deviations. Step 2. Perform production self-review. Production checks the completeness and accuracy of signatures, dates, equipment numbers, material lots, parameters, calculations, IPC results, deviations, and corrective actions. Step 3. Assemble the complete batch dossier. QA should receive the full dossier, including manufacturing and packaging records, QC results, COA, cleaning records, line clearance records, material records, labels, inspections, deviations, change controls, environmental data, and ERP evidence. Step 4. Conduct detailed QA review. QA confirms the correct approved batch record version was used and checks that the batch number, product name, code, dates, expiry, batch size, and order number match across records. QA also verifies approved materials, cleaned equipment, completed process steps, documented in-process controls, and whether the records make sense. Step 5. Review testing, calculations, and reconciliation. QA checks in-process and finished product results against specifications and ensures any OOS, atypical or questionable result, is investigated. QA also verifies calculations, component reconciliation, samples, rejects, returns, final quantities, and pallet records. Step 6. Review exceptions before release. No batch should be released only because final testing passed. QA must review deviations, abnormalities, out-of-specification results, change controls, and corrective actions, ensuring that root causes, quality impacts, conclusions, and actions are documented. Unresolved issues mean the batch stays on hold. Step 7. Make the disposition decision. QA decides whether to release, quarantine, hold, rework, or reject the batch based on evidence, not pressure or urgency. The decision must be documented, signed or electronically approved, dated and retained with the batch record. Step 8. Release for supply and ERP control. After QA approval, ERP or inventory status must be updated, release labels must be applied only to approved stock, and the warehouse must ship only QA-released product. Release is complete only when both the documentation status and the physical stock status are controlled. In summary, batch record review connects production execution, GMP documentation, testing, deviations, materials, packaging, and release. It confirms that the batch followed approved instructions, that the data and calculations are complete and correct, and that deviations are properly assessed. Most importantly, it protects patient safety, product quality, and GMP compliance. If you have any questions or would like to learn more about this topic, please visit our website. You can find in-depth information on batch record review in the pharmaceutical industry in our blog. Please see the article link in the description below. Subscribe with us to gain access to a library of hundreds of well-written GMP documents. Use the link in the description to reach us. Thanks for watching.